Alright, so I think it's about time I do a little bit of an update on the DJI O3 system, and actually see two different goggles here, the goggles Integra and the goggles 2, and I'll explain what's going on here, why you're seeing two goggles. It's been a while since my first big video on the O3 system came out. I think it was like 6 months ago or so. There were some changes, like a bunch of firmware updates that came out initially. I think the last firmware update for the air unit was around like January of this year, so it's been a while. There's been some updates for like the goggles and some other things, but for the most part, not a lot has changed. I originally started out with the goggles 2 with the original faceplate that comes with those, and then I switched out the faceplate for this foam faceplate. And actually, it's not this one, it's actually this one here. It's on the goggles Integra. So before I get to the foam, I do want to explain why you're seeing two here. So I originally started off with the goggles 2, and then I switched over to the goggles Integra. So the goggles Integra came with my Avata combo, and this one with this foam fits me the best in terms of being able to see the whole screen compared to the goggles 2. And that's one of the big differences between the goggles 2 and the Integra. The screen, actually the screen's the same size, I believe. It's the same OLED. It's just that the focusing mechanism's a little bit different. So you have, on the Integra, you have the diopters. So the Integra is a cheaper version of the goggles 2. I think the Integra is like $499. I believe the goggles 2 is like $100 more, $599. And then the goggles 2 have adjustable diopters built into the actual lenses, and so you don't need diopters here because you can actually adjust and fine-tune the focus. Now the problem that I had with the goggles 2 is that the field of view was too big. Generally speaking, people want a bigger field of view, but in my case, even with the softer foam, I could get my eyes closer to the screens. Still couldn't see everything. The edges of the screen were blurry, and the corners I basically couldn't see the corners too well. So I couldn't put any OSD elements in the corners. And then on the Integra, for whatever reason, they changed the way the focusing mechanism works. With this foam getting close to the screen, I'm pretty much can see the entire screen, and it's everything sharp, basically from side to side. I do have some astigmatism that these diopters don't correct for, and so I do have a little bit of blurriness due to my prescription in the lower, I think, left-hand corner of my left eye on this one, but it's way better than what's on the goggles 2. I could probably get some prescription lenses, and actually I probably will, for the Integra, but so far it's been good enough where I haven't felt the need to actually go out and buy them yet. And the field of view is narrower so that I can see everything, and so that's why I basically switched to the Integra. So just to explain a few more differences, the antennas on the goggles 2 are a little bit shorter for the stock antennas, but they're removable, so you can upgrade these. And in fact, I have some upgraded antennas from Flyfish coming. I will have a video on that later in terms of whether or not that improves anything or not. Honestly, I've had no problems with reception on the stock antennas, so I'm a little skeptical as to whether or not third-party antennas will actually help any, because the O3 system is so good already that you almost don't need to do any upgrades. But we'll get to that in a future video. When I get those, I'll test those out, and I'll tell you my thoughts when those come out. And then the goggles 2 have this separate battery. Now I removed the stock strap. I didn't use that. And you can buy additional batteries, which is nice. Just uses this special USB-C cable and then plugs in over here. So that's one of the advantages of the goggles 2, is that you can have multiple batteries, and so you can swap those out. And then conversely, on the Integra, you have this one big battery in the back here. It also is connected to the strap, and then the power cable runs through the strap on this side here. So it's nice and hidden, it's nice and clean. And so I just fold up this back battery like this, and I can just stuff it into my bag like this. Is pretty clean. And but when you run out of battery on this one, then you have to charge it up again. But you can run the goggles off of a power bank as long as it has enough power or power output, and you just plug it in via USB-C here. It'll charge the battery here that's in the back, and then also power up the goggles. So I've never actually run into that situation because I generally keep a good eye on the battery level on this one, which you can easily do by just pressing the power button here on the side, and it shows you where you're at. And never run out in the field. Generally don't fly for hours and hours, but I've had some longer sessions, made sure the battery's fully charged, and I didn't have any need for concern. And then if I needed to, I had a power bank in the car, and I could always plug that in if emergency came up, but that situation never came up. So this strap here, I did do a video on this one. I'll link it in the video description. I think it was a short video, so I'll link that in the video description as well as to where this came from. I think I got it from Amazon. So if you're looking for an alternative strap for your goggles too, this is a pretty nice one. It's held up so far, and as I said, I initially started off with this foam here, this gray one on the goggles too, and I switched it over. So when you first look at these, they look the same, right? Well, they're not the same. I got this one from Amazon, and I got this one from Race Day Quads. I believe Race Day Quads sells both of these. Of course, I'll link everything down in the video description, so if you need to get one, then you know where to get it from. You can pretty clearly see the nose area is the big difference here. So on this version, it's got this nose area filled in. So if you have a smaller nose, this foam is going to be better for you, and you won't have any light leakage. If you have a bigger nose like me, you'll want this one instead, where it's more flat here in this area, and my nose fits in here perfectly. I have zero light leakage on this one here, and so that's why I switched to this one. So I bought this one to try it out, and then I realized, oh, my nose is it was actually kind of hurting because my nose is kind of big and this area is kind of small. And also the thickness of this foam is a little bit more compared to the gray. So it's a little hard to get my face as close to the lenses, or my eyes as close to the lenses as this gray one. So it's a little bit flatter, not as cushy. So, if you want to get your eyes closer, you probably want the gray one. If you want your eyes further away, more like kind of comfort, then this purple one here is probably the way to go. But yeah, there's some slight differences between the two. There's also DJI's version of this one where they give you another option. It's like $35. Instead of this sort of like leather material, it's more like this sort of lycra material, sort of cloth material, but it's built into the faceplate. And as you can see, removing the faceplate is pretty easy. It just has these clips here, and actually here and over here. So if you're wondering how to remove it, you just pull it out and it'll pop out. And yeah, so if you want to go to the DJI option, I haven't tried that one. It's basically a faceplate replacement, but it has this cloth material instead of that sort of leather material. But I have a feeling that that's going to keep your eyes further away from your from the lenses than this material here. This here you just put on. There's like some Velcro that you stick onto the goggle itself. Yeah, so there's some Velcro. It's like some adhesive. You stick it onto the goggles like this, and then this material here just sticks to that. And then it secures the this foam to the goggle itself. So that's how that works. It's pretty simple. Now the Integra, the SD card is kind of in this spot. It's a little hard to get to, so you have to kind of pull up on the foam here, and then it will come out. But yeah, it normally it's like this. It's a little bit covered. So I was like, oh, that might be a big problem, but it turns out it's not a big problem. And then I typically use the little cover here. This is an option. You don't have to buy this or not. I like having that there, and then I can have my battery in this spot right here. I don't have to worry about the lenses getting scratched by this dial here. So that works out pretty well for me. Yeah, so that pretty much covers all the differences between the goggles. And again, I'll link everything down in the video description. Now overall, in terms of the O3 system in general, I've been pretty happy with it. I haven't had any issues with fail safes or lost video in like random spots, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, it's just worked pretty well. And this is the system I mainly fly, or I choose to fly most of the time, unless I'm doing reviews for the other systems like Walksnail or HD0. And if I had a choice, if there was only one to choose from, this is the one that I would choose. Now I have a lot of I had a lot of HG0 stuff. You've probably seen content on like various quads that I've had, bind and flies, and I've had some custom builds. But you don't see any additional content on HG0 because for the most part, all of my HG0 stuff doesn't work anymore from various crashes. I think the Whoop VTX has been the worst. I've had many of those die on me, so I don't fly that anymore because I don't think I have much left that actually is in working condition that I can fly, even if I wanted to. So that's why you don't see too much HG0 content. I still have a lot of walk snail stuff. It's generally, I think I've only burned 1S VTX as one of the early ones, but everything else has been working fine. The only thing that's super annoying about walk snail is that there's a lot of firmware updates, and it's a real pain in the butt to update everything, goggles and all the VTXs and the video receivers. I've got a lot of those components, and so it takes like a few hours to update everything when I want to go through an update cycle. So I generally don't update stuff unless a big fix or something and some new features come out, and I don't think a whole lot has changed in a while. It's been a lot of like sort of little bug fixes and stuff like that. So that's probably another reason why you haven't seen a lot of walk snail content, because it's just not a system. I mean, it's a good system. I haven't had any major problems with it in terms of like hardware dying, but it's just a pain in the butt to do all the firmware updates. And generally speaking, it's pretty much, in terms of the experience, it's pretty much like flying the DJI version, the first generation system. And just the only big difference is the 1S video transmitter that comes on, like you can put on whoops and like small micros. So that's where I think most of the content you've seen so far is from those those particular quads that the walk snails come on. But I haven't done any like long range, anything like that with walk snail, at least not yet, because I haven't gotten any like 7-inch quads with walk snail or anything like that. I don't think there's any bind and flies with a high powered walk snail VTX anyway. But yeah, that's where things stand right now. And I'm generally very happy with the Integra goggles. This is my daily driver goggle, and I will continue to use it unless something else comes along. But just wanted to give you an update. It's been many months, and again, not a lot's changed, but I'm sure some of you have noticed that I switched to this goggle and wondered why, and that's why you're seeing this video. Anyway, hopefully this has been some helpful information. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. That'll do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.